So welcome to New London. This is Angela, the lead curator on Juseum. Angela, what do we have here?
Well, Juseum, of course, is a Jewish museum. We think that the term is the first in the world. We tried to create here a Jewish museum for children and their parents. Mostly when children go to museums, they find they're intended for adults, and they may or may not be able to access parts of it. We decided to make children the starting point and the focus point, and we would make it child-sized and child-thought. So we tried to think like children.
Can you tell me about this room?
So this room, well, there are three rooms. So this room is about the synagogue, the second room is more or less about home, and the third is about the world. So it's more or less organised around, conceptually, around those three sort of spaces, really. So Juseum is also site-specific, and this is part of the synagogue that uses the ark here at the bima and the galila bench over there for prayer. So we decided to incorporate those into Juseum rather than think we should have a spare room, a blank room, and fill it with what we wanted. We decided there are shelves with Siddurim, for example. There's the Galila Church, which holds the Torah in various places. So we'll put these Cuddly Torahs commercial and Cuddly Torahs handmade by our very youngest children, our 3, 4 and some 5-year-olds. We put some rimonim here from Morocco, and also ones made by the children themselves, replicas of their own, some hung up as well. And so we tried to use it to make it site-specific. Of course, it was also pop-up. It came up over a Saturday night when Shabbat went out. So in that sense, it's a little... it has a temporary feel. It's meant to be temporary. But maybe it also has a slightly amateur feel, but we're okay with that. That's as it ought to be.
Just noticing a box right in the corner there on that
box here. Ah, yes. This box here. This is an area. This is a dressing up area because it is a children's museum. It is interactive in some respects. So one of the interactivities is to choose various hats that you might wear to shul, because this is the shul, the synagogue room, all styles and colours and shapes and sizes. And this one in particular, from that box, was worn by our late lamented, beloved Rabbi Louis Jacobs. So it sits there, and there were people trying it on, but it sits in the box because it's a little different from the others. These are here on the wall are Siddur maps. Children of 8, 9-year-olds were learning the structure of the service, where the Amidah goes, the Shema, what the Kaddish does, etc. And they were invited to create imaginative maps to track themselves through a service. So we have a zoo, we have a motorway, a ski resort, etc. That a mountain, of course, that take them through the service. It was a way that they understood that. This area here is all about talit and tefillin.
The mop is not an original part of the exhibition, is that correct?
It is a pop-up museum after all. So we have various talitot, some highly individual and bespoke, some I think all handmade, some with very special tzitziot. This activity here was to create something like a bookmark based on tzitzit. So the instructions for making the tzitzit, long and short pieces of wool, and children and families could make a fun bookmark like that. That's one of the activities. So we move here from Purim into this area which is about home. There will, of course, the shofar can be blown at home on Rosh Hashanah. Here we have the beginning of really home-based festivals with Sukkot, a puzzle about festivals. What do these festivals, what do these pictures tell us about the festivals? Which ones are they? A table here about Pesach, again with a puzzle around this Seder plate. A model of a Seder table, handmade model. These two interpreting themes of Pesach. These were done by 11-year-olds. What matters at Pesach around freedom. This one, for example, I'm not a victim.
And these are projects that the children in the Cheder had worked on?
They had worked on. This was 11, 12. These are two of the Seder meaning plates, we call them, just before Pesach, yes.
And you've been collecting stuff both during the year and also
we did some
particularly recently.
Stuff specifically in the last 3 weeks, but we've been collecting things throughout the year. Over here, of course, you can see we have Shabbat with commercial challah covers sitting in harmony with our 3-year-old's challah covers hung like a handkerchief skirt. They made kiddush cups and candlesticks, besamim bags, Havdalah candles.
And you're actually selling these little Havdalah candles.
We're also selling Havdalah candles.
To raise money for the shul.
To raise money for the yes. In the middle there is the centerpiece, I suppose, of this room is the chuppah. Charles has chuppah. And instead of having an enacted wedding, which is somewhat problematic, we decided we would create an installation. So you have, for example, the bride extending her finger to receive the ring, the somewhat large ring there, flowers, veil, kiddush cup, ketubah, bridal gown, groom's gown, and of course the broken glass.
I'm aware we're both having to crouch down to explain this properly, which is precisely the point.
Precisely the point. I mean, I think grown-ups having to crouch down, I think experience what it's like for children having to stretch up and still not be able to see what it is up there. Behind you there is our kosher kitchen, as it were. So we start with another activity. These children start with a shopping basket as though they come from a supermarket with various items. They have to leave treif ones behind in the supermarket. Place milk, parv and meat. There's 30 items that they have to place. And then again on the theme of marriage, we have two real ketubot, handmade ketubot, of our lovely Rabbi Jeremy to his bride Josephine, another couple who got married in the last year. This is Alex's ketubah to his bride Roz, and a photocopy of a ketubah for a wedding at which Rabbi Jacobs officiated in Manchester.
This one I think is lovely. It says a marriage between Aubrey Abraham Mendelssohn, otherwise Abraham Mendelssohn,
yes,
and Betty Fell, otherwise Betty Felkoff. So there's always history to extract from these things.
Absolutely, it's about their immigrant absorption, assimilation, and so on. These projects over here took place during Shikshuk, which was a holiday half-term scheme that we ran. The young people studied Chagall and how he used only 2 colours, or occasionally 3. So they had the task of creating something on a Jewish theme that also used 2 colours. So the very young ones, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, with chalks, and the other ones with acetate, with pens on acetate.
And there was a wonderful video that we're showing here during the week.
Yes, there is. It's still there. It's created by our 11, 12-year-olds, preparing to be bar mitzvah, and they created something based on an interpretation of a wedding dance. And that, of course, goes with the feet on the floor. The feet are so placed that you can dance the horror. If you've got little feet, you can dance the horror. This actually is a door, rather like the kosher kitchen, so we hung mezuzot here around this representation of a front door, mezuzot. And finally we go out into the world, and this here is about diaspora. So our 8-year-olds, who are clearly geographically challenged, but lovely people, created a map of the world. And we invited people interactively to place a red dot on the country or the region of their birth, if they could find the region, and the yellow dots on all the places where they knew they had ancestors. So we're getting a kind of interesting picture of where New London members, or members of the wider community possibly. There was
a recent sticker that made it up there from Samarkand, right?
Yes, that's right.
And I can see Ecuador is quite well represented in our community.
Nicely, the Canaries. And another another little activity was to look at these dolls to see whether you could place where they came from, just from their dress.
I hope one of the things that you can pick up from this video is how much detail there is, because almost everywhere you look there's something that's wonderfully creative, wonderfully imaginative, and also really worth an extra couple of minutes of just poking around and looking at.
So underneath you have the journey train. So this was a class of 7-year-olds who took the idea of diaspora and journey and looked at their own personal life journeys and interpreted it as carriages in a train. And then we move a little bit more towards Israel here. Above we have bees and flowers made from soft drink bottles. This again was a shik-shuk activity during half-term. It was based on the concepts of diversity and unity, and the focus was for that particular day was a kibbutz, and so the children noticed that the bees and the flowers and the kibbutz live together in harmony, and that's a good model of kibbutz hagoluyot, of the ingathering of the exiles. So they made from soft drink bottles, using this is entirely recycled materials, tops of soft drink bottles, they made bees and flowers. That's actually one of my favourite items. Over here we had, on the Sunday morning when we opened, we had a recording booth. Next year is New London's Jubilee, and we are thinking about our past and where we've come from, and so the Cheder started to collect stories of members of the community, mainly adults actually, but they were interviewed by our B'nai Mitzvah, our 11, 12-year-olds, with a mic, with a recording device. They had pre-prepared questions about why they come to New London and how long they've been here and what they like about it and where their families from and so on. So we're trying to build up a little bit of an archive of New London stories. And over here we end with something entirely personal. There is a sort of graffiti board, as it were, whereby people wrote on a blue slip a question they had, either a factual question, are pigs kosher or something, or a life question, why is, and then people were able to respond on a white piece, so we can see the question and we can see the answers. So you see, for example, some questions have attracted quite a few answers, and some, or a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5, not at all.
And as you stand here with the Juseum just about to come down after a triumphant run, any learning reflections, any thoughts that...
I want to say something about this, which I think is very simple. So this, which is about the learning frame. So this, this is a bookshelf that has our machzorim, but it sort of struck us, it looks a little bit like bricks in a wall, and so we've made it our kotel and invited people to place messages as they would in the hotel. So I didn't do this, but if I were to write a message to put in the hotel, it would be that we have become more solid together, we've learned from each other, we've been more giving than before, more willing to share. Families, for example, entrusting really very precious heirlooms to us. So there's not people tramping all over the place. So I think we've learned a great deal about how good we are, frankly. I'm not ashamed to say that. And we're going to do something else. Somebody said, is this an annual event? And we're all kind of like exhausted from it. And I can't see it being an annual event. But I think we will do something like this again, because the communal payoff is just enormous. The children have been so energized, and the teachers very excited. And I think the community has been very appreciative and almost awestruck sometimes. So yeah.
I think awestruck and appreciative is exactly how this rabbi feels about it. So, congratulations, Angela, to everyone involved, to all the Cheder team and all the kids. And thank you very much.
You're welcome.